So, Ben, you're based in Texas now, and many people now asking, how did we get to a point where police officers have been targeted? How surprised are you that we're at this point now?
The sad truth is that I'm not surprised, and this is, I think, has been the sad events we saw in Dallas a few days ago were in many ways very predictable. I think we have a situation now in the US which we could almost describe as being a low-grade form of civil war.
And there you have it, ladies and gents, from the sociologist's mouth. Apparently there's a low-grade civil war going on in the States. Well, that's partially true, and it's being hailed by a group called BLM, who are really into murdering police, apparently. Oh, and they're openly racist.
We have such a militarisation of the police force, in part because of changes that have taken place since 1997 and especially since 2011, where the Department of Homeland Security have allowed local police authorities to basically have weapons-grade material.
What? Weapons-grade material? BLM? Really?
In terms of MRAP vehicles, in terms of armaments that are normally reserved for the battlefield. So you've had the kind of militarisation of the police force in the US.
Of course, that's it. It's so clear to me now. The American police are buying themselves, armoured vehicles and militarising themselves so they can oppress minorities. That's it. It's so clear to me now. Why a load of shite? What's the point of making this point? Because there's no point. It's just sensationalising an issue that has nothing to do with what's going on. It's completely stupid.
On top of that, you've had the kind of the deep-seated issues of racial injustice and racial discrimination, which are now kind of bubbling to the surface. And I think it's kind of ironic in many ways that this is happening under Barack Obama's administration, which was supposed to be this kind of post-racial era.
Well, whilst I'd agree that there's going to be some racist incidents, I mean, when you're talking about a population so large, there will be some incidents, and it could go both ways. And those incidents should be investigated, and they should be, sorted out in the correct manner. There is no room for racism. However, if your conclusion from that is that the vast majority of white policemen are so endemically racist that they would use any excuse to go out and murder black men, that is a bizarre and ludicrous conclusion to come to. Personally, I don't believe that people in general are that bad. We've got to look at the facts here. And those police officers that are involved in shootings that are unlawful should be obviously prosecuted to the full extent of the law. They're murderers. But that doesn't mean that every incident where there's a police shooting with a black man, that it's necessarily a racist murder. That's a ridiculous and ludicrous conclusion to come to. And as far as Barack Obama's flipping tenure in office, and this is supposed to be a post-racist era, that's ridiculous. And I'll show you why. This is why.
First of all, the judge found probable cause to move charges against Latasha Ned forward. After that, she made an impassioned speech saying more violence to protest violence gets us nowhere.
Hashtag. How you feel when you be the hashtag?
Hashtag. How you feel when you be the hashtag? And that was the scene outside the Clayton County Courthouse as Latasha Ned went before Judge Dallas on charges including terroristic threats and criminal solicitation. Police say they arrested Ned after seeing videos of her online with a gun and a machete advocating bringing harm to whites and police officers. Ned's attorney told the judge his client was defending herself from someone who had threatened her and she was exercising her rights to free speech. In the end, Judge Dallas said Ned's language was inciting and was more than an expression of free speech.
You show two police officers and say it's open season on killing cracker cops. Does that fix the problems that we have in this country? Or does it add to the problems that we have in this country?
I was really nervous to get up here because there's a lot of white people in the crowd. and that wasn't a joke.
Today, we live in a time where the white man will be picked off, and there's nothing he can do about it. His day is up. His time is up. We will witness more executions and killing of white people and cops.
Right now, the big concern is the fact that the data shows black folks are more vulnerable to these kind of incidents. But this isn't a matter of us comparing the value of lives.
No, this isn't at all. And I think, first of all, we have to be careful not to link the shooter with the Black Lives Matter movement. I don't think that there's any correlation or link between the two.
What? No link? Is she flipping joking? I smell some serious horse shit here. But hey, let's have a look at some facts, huh?
The suspect said he was upset about Black Lives Matter. He said he was upset about the recent police shootings. The suspect said he was upset at white people. The suspect stated he wanted to kill white people, especially white officers.
The reality is that Black Lives Matter came about because black lives are seeming not to matter. So it doesn't mean nobody else's life matters or police lives don't matter. It means that the lives of black people matter. I mean, it's really that simple. And I think it's a shame if people take that and say it's some sort of agitating force. At the end of the day, these are people who are responding to events that are happening in their time, which they are not happy about, and that nobody else seems to be doing anything about.
A 6-year-old boy was shot while playing outside these apartments off of Northwest 103rd Street and 12th Avenue in Northwest Miami-Dade. Miami-Dade police quickly swarmed the area. Detectives and crime scene investigators combing for evidence. Their chopper circling over looking for a possible car, and the 3 men in it who opened fire, killing the boy. Family friends who didn't want to speak on camera tell us the boy's parents work hard to keep him out of trouble, making sure he goes and does well in school, stays and plays in sports. All of them fed up, including Miami-Dade Police Director Juan Perez.
The reality is that Black Lives Matter came about because black lives are seeming not to matter.
Mona, tonight we're hearing from Jawan's father, who was with him last night during the shooting. He tells me that he really wants justice for his son.
Hubert Latham is still in shock.
Man, it happened so quick.
Yesterday, while sitting in his car with his 12-year-old son at Danny Mayfield Park, bullets rang out between rival gangs. Police say this stopped a gathering that was being held at the park by one of the gangs. Shots shattered glass in Hubert's back window, hitting Jawan in his head while he was sitting in his back seat.
The reality is that Black Lives Matter came about because black lives are seeming not to matter.
Near a noisy viaduct along 59th Street, quietly holding vigil for Jaquante Riles, who was gunned down there last night.
It's shocking. It's tragic.
Those who were with him say shots rang out around 9:30 Saturday night as a 14-year-old Jaquante walked with several others near 59th and Oakley. Officers arrived to find the teen dead on the sidewalk with a gunshot wound to his back. Police claim Riles had gang ties, but friends deny that, saying there's no way he could have been the intended target.
The reality is that Black Lives Matter came about because black lives are seeming not to matter.
Well, I would tend to disagree. I don't think Black Lives Matter really care about black lives at all. I've never seen a march organised in the streets publicly by BLM to protest against any of the previous cases we've heard. Because the reality is that they don't give a fucking shit. All they care about is pushing their own political and racist ideals. It's outrageous that anyone can take this movement seriously as anything that's in any way a good force. And so let me share now with you the thoughts of a black woman in America, an African American woman who really does think the same way as me, and thinks that these people are thugs and criminals.
All right, everybody, take a seat and watch this segment. I promise you'll find it very interesting. That Black Lives Matter heard across the country and the campaign, on the campaign trail, most recently outrage over the case of Mansour Bal Bey, a young black man who was killed by 2 white St. Louis police officers. Police say he pointed a gun at them before they fired. His family disputes that.
So this guy allegedly pointed a gun at police. If that happened, what do you expect? The police are going to shoot back and you're probably going to die.
But where is the outrage over another death? The death of Jamila, 9-year-old Jamila Bolden, killed by a stray bullet in her home as she did her homework. At least one woman is very angry. I want you to listen to this video. It's from an African-American grandmother named Peggy Hubbard.
Who do you think they protested for? The thug, the criminal. Because they're hollering police brutality. Are you kidding me? Police brutality? How about black brutality? You black people, my black people, you are the most violent I have ever seen in my life. You're shooting at the police. Police drops your ass. Oh, poor so-and-so. He died due to police brutality. 127 homicides later, y'all want to holler police brutality? Black people, you're a joke. You're tearing up communities for thugs and criminals. You think the police are out here for fun? You think they're out here for games? They're not going to tuck you in. They're not going to give you a cookie and sing you a lullaby and tuck you in. No, they're going to pop a cap in your ass. You shoot at them, they're going to shoot at you.
So what is it that Black Lives Matter want? Well, they want their own. They've got their own political aims. This is an openly racist organisation. We know that. There's enough evidence to support that. It seems that they really don't care about black lives. Now, I'm not saying all these people are the same, but I'm saying the people who own this movement, who run this movement, who coordinate all this stuff, they don't care about black lives. They couldn't give two fucking shit. And we can see that because nobody goes out in the street and protests when these kids are killed that I've just showed you. Nobody. None of these so-called Black Lives Matter people. It's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. And all they do is profess violence. All they do is make things worse. And these are the kind of people that empower the lunatic fringe to go out and act on their almost criminal rhetoric. It's disgusting. Now, I'm going to give you a few examples of this right now.
Well, the chant taunting police officers during the Minnesota State Fair on Saturday wreaked havoc in Minnesota, hours after Texas Deputy Darren Goforth was executed in Texas. So what's going on in our country? Joining us right now to react is the Executive Director of Black Sphere, Kevin Jackson. Kevin, your reaction to Friday's events followed by Saturday's events.
Well, the Friday events were tragic and certainly a stain on the nation. Saturday is pretty much par for the course these days, Brian. If you recall, they had the same chant a while back when another officer was killed.
If you aren't familiar to the term pigs in a blanket, what it's referring to is police officers in body bags. In December, Ishmael Brinsley posted on his Instagram page that he was going to go put pigs in a blanket before going and slaughtering 2 New York City police officers dead in their patrol car while they were eating lunch.
On Saturday afternoon, officers Rafael Ramos and Wenjin Liu were sitting in their patrol car in Brooklyn when 28-year-old Ishmael Brinsley walked up to their vehicle, pulled a gun, and shot them both in the head.
So as you can see, this guy couldn't even find white police officers to murder. He murdered an Asian and a Latino police officer. I mean, it just goes to show you these fucking subhuman assholes are using it as an excuse just to murder police officers. It's disgusting beyond belief. It really is.
I need to say all lives matter because white citizens aren't dying at the hands of police. And that's why it's interesting to me that people think there's something wrong with actually saying, we need to say Black Lives Matter because we live in this context in which African Americans are dying.
Whites are twice as likely to get shot by law enforcement than blacks.
But there has to be racism. You can't say there's no racism.
Without evidence?
No. I'm just saying that I don't know which animal. Maybe we're talking about dogs or something. I'm talking about human beings, and I'm like, human beings are most likely going to have racial prejudices. I'm just so sorry. I'm just so sorry. I don't know. I don't come from. I come from planet Earth.
Charles, I want to ask you a question. So your default is that when there is no evidence, racism is the deciding factor.
No, I was not saying that. I'm just saying that you're going to have sexists, you're going to have racists, you're going to have all this stuff. I mean, I'm just saying that...
I agree it exists, but the problem that I'm seeing, and this is the problem with the general conversation, is that there's no solution in simply saying there's racism out there. How does that solve anything? I mean, when you talk about there's institutional racism, what does that mean? Show me a law that is racist in intent, and we will agree. Show me a police officer who commits a racist act like we saw in South Carolina, right, where a police officer shot a black man running away and it was obviously unjustified, and I will agree. But you need... The idea that you can craft a narrative based on no racism because it just must be somewhere out there in the ether, that doesn't solve problems for anybody and creates more problems for people because now they grow up in a milieu and an environment where they are told that every obstacle they face is from some shadowy, nameless, faceless group who is out to get them simply because of the color of their skin. They'll never succeed in that environment.
Michelle, what do you people want?
What do I want?
Michelle.
When you say you people, what do you mean?
The complaining black people blaming others for the failure of their parents and their lives, blaming others for whatever it is you complain about. What is it exactly do you want from white people?
I'm offended by the language of uprising applied to people who are breaking into other black people's stores and looting them. This is a lack of values. And people who are destroying private property, destroying cop cars, in an uprising against what exactly? Against the black police chief, against a mostly minority police force, against the black mayor, against the black president, against the black attorney general, against against a city council that is 9 of 15 are black and all 15 are elected Democrats. What is the uprising against? What is it seeking to achieve? I still don't see what exactly the riots are seeking to achieve. Bottom line is, this is all, it all could be boiled down to just act like a mensch. Act like a human being. Honestly, it's not useful to riot, it's not useful to break things, it's not useful to throw rocks at people. And the idea that we're supposed to sort of correlate your level of outrage.
I'm going to stick to the 30 seconds on
the
this
last
one,
sentence. The last sentence. The idea that we're supposed to correlate your level of outrage with a certain level of justification. In other words, the more outraged you are and the more angry you are, the more justified you must be, is absolute nonsense.
Thanks very much, Adam. Well, it's a tweet from Black Lives Matter co-founder Yusra Kogali that has raised eyebrows and concern. It reads, quote, "Please, Allah, give me strength not to cuss/kill these men and white folks."
Sheriff Clark, this is horrific, what happened, obviously. But do you think it is fair to link this murder to the Black Lives Matter movement when we still don't know the suspect's motive?
I think it's very fair in light of the anti-cop rhetoric that is sweeping the United States of America, fueled by this group, some of the vulgar, vile, vicious rhetoric that's coming out, talking about killing cops, and that's just some of the nice stuff, some of the stuff I can't even say here on TV, but there is no doubt in my mind that the two New York officers, Ramos and Lou, were gunned down by an individual who made Facebook postings about wanting to kill pigs, and he was going to go out and hunt officers down. There have been officers across the United States who've had their cruisers shot at and struck while they patrolled. St. Louis, the same thing. Yes, this is part of a pattern now, and you'd have to stick your head in the sand to think that this thing here wasn't fueled by this vile, vulgar, slimy movement.
How can you argue that racism is not a driving factor in income inequality?
Because it has nothing to do with race and everything to do with culture. And when you have a culture that doesn't, you know what? Explain to me. You explain to me why black kids aren't graduating high school. Explain that one to me. Explain to me why black kids are shooting each other in rates significantly higher than whites are shooting each other. Explain to me why 13% of the population is responsible for 50% of the murder. Explain to me why the number of black kids in prison, not for innocent reasons, not for walking down the street and getting pulled into a prison, is so high. Explain, if it has nothing to do with culture, explain to me why the single motherhood rate in the black community jumped from 20% to 70% in the same course of time that the civil rights movement has made such tremendous strides. Is America more racist now than it was in 1960? And if it is, please explain to me how that happened.
Anybody can jump in. It's an open mic there.
All right, I want to move on to Tyrus. What is your favorite story, or your pick?
I went with Black Lives Matter. And honestly, I made a shirt because that's what I do in my free time when I'm not fishing.
Yeah.
My life matters with a big brain.
Yeah, that's
because what it basically comes down to is compliance and resistance. And if you look at, I would say 99% of all the video stuff that you've seen, where you've seen police brutality and things like that, it's during what? Non-compliance. Right. And what that simply means, I'm 6'8", 390 business pounds.
Yeah.
I'm light-skinned, I have a beard, I listen to music loud. When I get pulled over, it's never fun.
Yeah.
It sucks for me.
Yeah.
Because the cop gets out and goes, huh, because he'll see this sitting there.
Yeah.
Because I don't want him to go, huh. Because he doesn't know.
Right.
There's a giant tattoo, and he has to investigate to see who I am and what I'm about.
Yeah.
Hands are on the steering wheel. I ask to do everything. If he asks me to get out of the car, I get out of the car.
Yeah.
What would you like to do, officer? You
Yeah.
know, but I'm being compliant. Do I like it?
Yeah.
No. But it's not. He's the officer. He's the police.
Right.
He's the law. He has the right to investigate. When I'm compliant, nothing bad's going to happen to me. It's not my moment to resist arrest, and when everyone videotapes me resisting arrest and being taken down, that's where bad things happen. That doesn't make me Rosa Parks.
Right.
That makes me a criminal. And it has nothing to do with color.
On the Black Lives Matter idea, I want to find the people. I want to find the people alongside you who think Black lives don't matter. I'm still looking for those people. Really, I mean, like the implication is, of course, that for a bunch of people out there, for some reason, they're fine with black people getting shot in the street for no reason. Hands Up, Don't Shoot was based on a lie. That's problematic. The idea that there is a huge number of black young men who are being shot for no reason by police officers is not statistically true. It's just not statistically true. The fact is that according to statistical studies at John Jay College, if you're a white man in a similar confrontation with police, you have a better chance of being shot by police than if you are a young black man. More white men are shot by the police every year in the country than young black men are shot by police in the country. The idea that there is a spate, and there's an easy proof. We know all of their names. We know all of their names. When there are 30 million black men in America. Okay, when we know President Obama said that we have a spate, it's a slow-rolling crisis. Once every couple of weeks, we have a case that's under dispute. So let's take his statistic. Okay, so let's say it's 26. Not one is too many, and we all agree. But is it really a slow-rolling crisis with a broad trend across the nation when there are 30 million black people in the entire country, and 26 people are shot under disputed circumstances, and probably at least half of those, the cop is at least justified? In Michael Brown, he was justified. Okay, and so basing it on falsities, you can't base a narrative on lies.
We're running. And I just want to make one thing that really bothered me. Like last night, I talked to several. I wanted some more information because I'm on one side of it. I'm not a police officer. Right. So I actually had a chance to talk to a few police officers. And then the number one thing they all said, none of them knew each other. They were different colors and origins, whatever. Said the same thing. Black Lives Matter is an insult to every guy who puts on a badge and runs to those bullets being fired in those neighborhoods. And these are high crime areas. These are things that are happening every day.